Hello YouTube. So I'm going to do two videos, guys. This first video is going to be a freestyle on Erich Neumann's Origins and History of Consciousness. And I'm going to do another video where I actually write down a small video, like a 4 or 5 minute video, and I'm going to do it. And we're going to see which one is better. So let's see. So for the freestyle, right? So I've just been skimmed through, read this book, Erich Neumann's Origins and History of Consciousness. So what Neumann basically says is that the development of the individual is mirrored in the development of the history of the collective history of mankind, right? So as the individual, you can see the history of mankind in the evolution of the individual. So Erich Neumann says there's basically 4 or 5 stages in the idealized development of the individual, right? Because when you develop as an individual, the myths of culture that mirror the development of the individual are the highest level, like the ideal development of the individual. Here are the 5 stages. There's the Ouroboros, which is the tail-eating snake, the circular tail-eating snake, which represents eternity prior to the separation of opposites, prior to the birth of consciousness. Then there is the Great Mother, where the ego is still, barely making an entry into the world. It's still subsumed and subordinated by the Great Mother. Then there is the separation of the world parents. The child is born and there is a separation of the world parents where consciousness begins to really come into its own, right? So now these have been the myths, right? So if you look at the art and mythology of ancient Egyptian, Indian, thought all around the world, you see these basic, the cultures around the world talk about the Ouroboros, the infinite circle, the tail-eating snake. Then they talk about the mother archetype, right? Because every human has had a mother, right? And then they talk about the world parents, right? The separation of Father Heaven from Mother Earth. You have these ancient Maori and Egyptian and Indian fables that discuss the separation from, heaven from earth, Father Sky from Mother Earth. And then you have, after that is the birth of the hero. Once the child is born, the hero has to come into full egoic consciousness and assert himself. The human individual has to assert himself in the world and conquer all of the negative aspects within himself and without, right? And through this process of the hero's journey, so now we get into Joseph Campbell and the hero's journey, we realize that we can, there's a transformation of the hero, right? The hero has to struggle and become a better man and strive to do great things in the world and release himself from the terrible, and you see this in fairy tales around the world, the evil witch mother, the evil old witch, who has to be taken over. So the hero has to conquer the dark side of the mother. The hero has to conquer the evil tyrannical king, or the dragon, to get the lost treasure, which is usually represented as a fair maiden or gold or various things like that. Something that symbolizes something of value, right? Of deep spiritual value, right? Those are material symbols of spiritual values. And the hero transforms into a great soul in his struggle to become this better man, to conquer the darkness. And sometimes the hero falls in the stories and sometimes the hero succeeds, right? But let's just assume, and so now I'm kind of extending Neumann's ideas, right? I'm extending Neumann's ideas into the realm of Eastern philosophy. Because at the end of the day, the ego itself, once the ego comes into full consciousness, the ego itself has to be subsumed by the superordinate principle of Brahman. So there is the Ouroboros, there's the Great Mother, there's the separation where the child is born, the child grows up and matures and becomes a hero. And then the child can no longer be a child, the hero can no longer be a hero. The hero has to become one with the transcendental source that gave birth to existence. So it comes full circle, back into the Ouroboros, but a conscious entry into the center of the Ouroboros, the center of the circle. So and in that realization, you become the universal spirit. Your identity shifts from ego to self, and there's no longer just a relationship between you and the archetypes. there's actually a unity between you and the archetype of the self, and you become the self, which is God, and so you unite with the God image, you know, and you become God. And that sounds blasphemous, but it's not like the individual you, right? Because when you become divinity, everything around you is divinized or made divine. All the humans around you become God. Everything, the dogs, the little puppies, you can see God through their eyes. So that's a super simple version of Erich Neumann's History of Consciousness. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Namaste.